Welcome back to the Show Me Show podcast for episode 43. So, Troy Polamalu podcast, I guess, but episode 43. Merry Christmas, everyone, and happy holidays. We have our NFL rundown, as well as a little recap of some of the games, not all of them. We have our Show Me Show fantasy corner, which leads into some other topics of discussion: college football playoff talk, some Mizzou talk, which is much needed. And then we also have our picks at the end, but it is Tuesday, so even though we'll pick them now, some things are subject to change as the NFL is constantly moving. So yes, that's it, and we'll jump on into the rundown, and I will start us off. So, NFL rundown week 16. Wow. Here we go. All right, we start off in the Meadowlands on what was a brisk Thursday night game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets. The question of whether or not Trevor Lawrence could play winning football in the cold was still out there in public airspace. But this question was quickly put to rest as Trevor Lawrence had a very gutsy performance against a very tough Gang Green defense, rushing for a touchdown on the goal line and throwing for over 220 yards. As for the once highly coveted Zach Wilson, he might be looking to get into the public airspace business soon enough via his uncle, Mr. Nealman, the founder of JetBlue. Duval wins this one 19-3.
Next, we head to the very windy city, where was the 3-11 Bears hosting the palindrome-like 11-3 Super Bowl hopeful Buffalo Bills. Both of these majestic beasts look to be in their natural habitats early on, weathering the cold, as Justin Fields found former St. Louis Ram Dante Pettis for an early touchdown. In fact, the Bears went into halftime up 10-6, but that was all she wrote, as Mother Nature allowed the Bears to remain in hibernation once the second half started, as the Bills got back on track and scored 4 second-half touchdowns. The Buffalo Bills win this one 35-13 and remain in the first place in the AFC, while the Bears actually inch closer to the first overall pick in the 2023 draft. Shout out the Bills for finally getting home, too.
Yep. Over to Believe Land, where New Orleans was in town for this cross-conference matchup between the Marching Saints and Brownie the Elf. And what was the coldest game in Cleveland Brown history at just 6 degrees Fahrenheit. It was no wonder they couldn't find the end zone for 6 points all too often, only scoring a measly 10 points all game. Dennis Allen's Saints were facing the same challenge, but in a touching tribute to Franco Harris, Allen summoned his own battering ram, Taysom Hill, as he rammed his helmet into all kinds of dangerous places and scored a late touchdown to propel the Saints over the Browns, and NOLA wins this one 17-10.
Things only got weirder from there as we headed over to Nashville, where the Tits were hosting the singular win Texans in what looked like just another Derrick Henry domination game against the Texans. They ended up putting an end to that after the first half. What felt like a revelation during December, the Houston Texans may have figured out how to play football again, as they scored 9 fourth-quarter points to come back and beat Vrabel's Tits to get their second win of the season, and now hold the first pick over the Bears by a half a game. As for the Titans, they will have to beat the red-hot Jags in Week 18 if they want to continue playing into mid-January. As for this one, the Texans win 19-14.
Further west, we land in Kansas City, where they hosted the very much reeling Seattle Seahawks. And in no offense to Geno Smith, but this might be the appropriate time to start writing back, as he tossed another interception this week, this time to safety Juan Thornhill. And as for the Chiefs, well, there's just no place like Mahomes for the holidays, as he was able to find 2 different Chiefs for touchdowns. And while the Chiefs' offense wasn't able to gift Andy Reid a 50 burger for Christmas, there was no shortage of patties in Reid's stocking, as the team made sure Big Red was fed well on Christmas Eve. Chiefs Kingdom get its 12th win of the season for the 5th year in a row and win this one 24-10.
That is absolutely incredible. Next, we head to Skull City, where the stadium was a winter wonderland on Christmas Eve in the very extreme whiteout of US Bank Stadium. And while this game was a little bit of an eyesore in terms of deciphering what was out of bounds and what was the end zone from the couch, the Viking faithful was rewarded with another tremendous football game, another one-score game, as this one once again came down to the wire, as Daniel Jones found Daniel Bellinger for the game-tying two-point conversion with little time left. But it just wouldn't be right for this game to head to overtime, as Kirk Cousins was able to put a little something together and allowed for Greg Joseph to kick the game-winning 61-yard field goal, and the Vikings win 27-24. Moved to 11-0 in one-score games, NFL record.
Now we head to the crime dump city of Baltimore, where the Falcons and Ravens had a bird battle. Desmond Shitter and Tyler Dunpley were both atrocious to watch. After exchanging field goals all game, Drake London Bridges fell down and lost the ball on the way. The Falcons may be heading to hell as they've lost 6 out of their last 7. The Ravens desperately need to pay Lamar, or they will be headed to the same spot next year. Ravens stay alive in the AFC North, though, with a win 17-9.
And in another AFC North game, the Bengals took on the Patriots. This weird matchup, the kickers forgot to bring their kicking legs with them today, and the weather certainly did not help with that. McCorkle Jones was off his game again, and Boston fans are starting to question their QB of the future. Is he the guy, or is he not? Despite being dominated by Joe Cool in the first half, the Pats had a chance to win late in the game. But for the second straight week in a row, Ramondre Stevenson loses control of the football in the final minutes of the game. Only this time, it was unwillingly, as he fumbles away the game and possibly the Patriots' season on the 5-yard line. With all the weird scores and missed kicks, we get a Christmas scoregami as the Bengals hold on for a 22-18 win.
A true miracle. In the final early slate game, the holiday, the Panthers and Lions battled in a surprisingly important playoff matchup. Sammy Mono Darnold got the show started early, guiding the Panthers to 24 first-half points. Donta Foreman and Nick Chubba Hubbard both rushed for over 100 yards apiece, and the Fighting Dan Campbells never gave up. But in the words of Man Campbell himself, we fought hard, man. And no matter how many mans Detroit had, it wasn't enough as they drop a huge game 37-23 and send the Panthers to an exhilarating first-place battle against Tom Brady next week. As for the Lions, they now need to win out.
Come on, man. We got to get Detroit to the playoffs, man. Panthers kicked our ass, man. When the lights go down in the city and when the sun shines on the bay, you know you're in beautiful San Francisco, where the 49ers are playing host to the Commanders. And what was a tied game going into halftime, things quickly got out of hand for Taylor Heineke as his turnover woes continued and allowed the 49ers to jump out to a very, very sizable lead. And things just continued to spiral out of control from there. So much so that before the end of this one, Heineke found himself on the sideline. As for Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan, they think they might have all the pieces in place to make a run at the big Super Bowl. San Fran wins 37-20. Helps out the Packers tremendously.
And if your Christmas was weary, at least you had this nice little stocking stuffer left out for you as the high-flying Philadelphia Eagles traveled down to Big D for a tough divisional matchup without MVP candidate Jalen Hurts. But in case you forgot, this was a dead coach game for Gardner Minshew, and he was not going to go down without swinging his sword. And swing his sword he did, throwing for 2 touchdowns and over 350 yards. But that doesn't tell the whole story, as he also tossed 2 interceptions, which the Cowboys and a very efficient Dak Prescott were able to take advantage of, outscoring the Eagles by 2 field goals in the fourth quarter and winning this one 40-34.
Next, we head to the bittery cold Steel City, where it was the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception game. And if you didn't already hear, we lost a great one on December 20th as Franco Harris, the main character in the Immaculate Reception, he passed away at the age of 72. And due to tragedy, Both teams' offenses got together for a special touching tribute to that incredible Immaculate Reception game and tried their best to mimic those high-flying offenses. And they did. In fact, Derek Carr didn't care what team you were on. If you were open, he was going to hit you, tossing 3 interceptions to the Steelers' defense. And on top of all of that, Pitt legend Kenny Pickett was able to put together a game-winning drive, finding George, bet you wish you would have pickened me to steal this one on Christmas Eve from Las Vegas and on the night that Franco Harris's number was retired. The Steelers win over the Raiders 13-10.
Next, we head to Miami, where little white powder could be found all over the city on this beautiful Christmas day, just like the Miami days of old. Points were lighting up the scoreboard early on as both offenses had it rolling in the first half. But as the Dolphins took a 7-point lead into halftime, some were starting to say that Tua may have dabbled in the little white powder that littered the city during the break, as he came out and tossed 3 interceptions in the second half, allowing the Packers and Aaron Rodgers to get ahead late, and allowed that Packers defense to just pin their ears back and try their best to plant Tua into the dirt. And successful they were, as Tua is once again back in concussion protocol. Packers win on Christmas Day, 26-20.
Well, Christmas gift for me from Roger himself. Out to L.A., where SoFi Stadium was packed and ready to watch Baker Mayfield take on Mr. Unlimited in this very incredibly worthless game. Let Russ cook, we used to say, but the season has been such a disaster that it had Patrick Starr saying that's not what he wanted to cook after a terrible Russ interception on Nickelodeon. Nathaniel Hackett definitely cannot hack it. And that Broncos D finally gave up after 15 very hard-fought weeks. In fact, the only person cooking in this one was the Baker, as he had one of the best games of his NFL career. As the Rams were able to get Cam Akers going as well and dropped the 50 burger on the Broncos. Just hours later, Black Monday came early for the Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett, as he was fired inevitably, and his clock commander has been promoted to interim head coach. Just add insult to injury. And now all the Broncos want for Christmas is Sean Payton. Rams win 51-14.
Well, the NFL scriptwriters once again let their laziness show in the final game of the night in Arizona, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to complete another late comeback led by Tom Brady to stay in control of the NFC South. And while Trace McSorley's dad may have looked like Johnny Sins, he clearly didn't pass down the dog gene, and Trace could not create many big scenes. Bucs win 19-16 in overtime on a Ryan Suckup 40-yard field goal.
And finally, we head to Indianapolis. And I don't care what day of the week it is, Cam. Jeff Saturday should be fired immediately, as his offense wasn't able to convert a singular third down conversion throughout the entirety of the game, wasting another solid defensive performance from his guys. Herbert and Eckler did their usual and were able to win this one with ease, as the social media quarterback himself will finally get to the NFL playoffs for the first time in his career. Also has a positive career winning percentage for the first time in his career, as the San Diego Superchargers win this one 20-3. And that wraps up the Week 16 rundown. Great week.
Yeah.
Great week of football.
Yeah, 2 great weeks of football in a row, and obviously there was no show last week. We kind of just took Christmas break off. Yeah. But yeah, another really good week of football. Just 2 regular season weeks off, and then super wild card weekend, which I can't wait for, but only 2 regular season weeks left does kind of hurt. But I think, Luke, do you go back on the 17th as well to school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Indeed.
Okay, so that means both of us will get to enjoy Super Wild Card Weekend at least to the fullest, which is nice. It's nice to kind of sit here and know that at least we get to watch the entirety of the rest of the NFL regular season and even Super Wild Card weekend without having to worry about school yet. So that's nice. But yeah, another good week of football. And the playoff race is really starting to heat up, especially with the South teams, honestly, the AFC South and NFC South. It's pretty much up for grabs right now, even with the final weeks weighing in. Yeah, so I think we're going to start off with the scoregami game, which happened between New England and Cincinnati. And this one was weird to me because it was on NFL Red Zone a lot early on because the Bengals, they jumped out to a 22-0 lead. And then there was just kind of like this lull of action being displayed on Red Zone because the Bengals stopped scoring and the Patriots certainly weren't scoring until we got to the second half when it was like third down and like 30 something. And yeah, the Patriots had scored, I think it was 22-6 at this point in time. And then they pretty much just had to throw a Hail Mary, and it was a Hail Mary. Mac Jones uncorked one to the end zone, and it was kind of batted in the air. And who else to catch it but Jacoby Myers, kind of catching it on a lateral from his teammate for a touchdown, which was just incredible scene of events. Like from last week, lateraling it to Mac Jones, or trying to, only inevitably going to Chandler Jones for losing, and Chandler Jones got that game-winning score, to scoring on a like if you see the play, it was tipped up in like a lateral form to Jacoby Myers for a touchdown, and that had the Patriots right in this thing. And as Luke mentioned in the rundown, though, Ramondre Stevenson this week unwillingly fumbled, and the Patriots had this one in the bag because they were marching right down the field again, and the Bengals could not stop them in the second half, which is a wild thing to say because their second half defense has been awesome all year long, and the Patriots offense has not been good at any point during this season. So this was like a true anomaly, and Ramondre Stevenson fumbled it away, and they lost. But even weirder, with all the weird scores and missed kicks, because there was lots of missed extra points, which led to teams going for 2 and not getting it, and so lots of just 6-point touchdown drives instead of 7 or 8. We ended up with 22-18, Luke, which was scoregami. So a nice little Christmas gift from the football gods.
I think it was the second week in a row that there was a scoregami as well. Or it might have been 2 weeks ago that we had one, but very recently.
Yeah, I think
so. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was pretty recent, especially since we went like almost the majority of the season. I know we had one at the beginning of the season, but there hadn't been
like week 3 or 4
weeks,
or something.
And now we got 2 in the span of 3 weeks. So
yeah,
pretty crazy stuff.
So
in terms of that. But yeah, now the Patriots are pretty much kind of screwed in terms of playoff. They can still get in, but they really needed to win that one at home to really give themselves a good chance. And the Bengals, though, they're leading the AFC North, although it's probably going to come down to the final game of the season between the Bengals and the Ravens to decide who's going to capture the AFC North. But there, if the Chiefs and the Bills slide, because the Bills play the Bengals this weekend on Monday Night Football, Bengals are still in contention for the number 1 seed because they beat the Chiefs and they get to play the Bills, and they would have the tiebreaker over the Bills as well. So they have a chance to capture not only the AFC North, but first place in the AFC, which would give them a bye, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that would. I mean, the NFC wildcard race is different, but the AFC wildcard race is really picking up too. So it's going to be going to be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, the AFC East, they appear that it's going to be one of those teams, and they kind of have like a gauntlet with each other the next few weeks. So it'll sort itself out. And,
Yeah.
I'm just excited to see what happens. And I do apologize. I think I'm picking up a little bit of a lag here, like more than usual. So for the listeners, if there is a little bit of a lag, we apologize. But hopefully it doesn't come into play too much here. Any other games that you want to talk about? I mean, I guess we talk about the Cowboys-Eagles for a little bit, but it was a pretty standard game. Like,
yeah,
as far as
it was pretty much
like
just
playing each other, like
how
the
you
first
expect
game.
it. You know, it was just back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting
right.
if they do play in the playoffs and Jalen Hurts plays, because the first game that they played each other, Dak Prescott was out and Cooper Rush was in. Eagles win.
Cooper Rushing.
This game, Jalen Hurts is out. Gardner Minshew's in. Cowboys win. You know, so they just beat each other's backup quarterbacks. So if they end up playing in the playoffs with Dak and with Jalen Hurts, we have no idea what's going to happen. So it still leaves like that door open for
which
it to
is
be fun.
Beautiful.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Neither of the defenses looked good in this game. I'll say that. And Gardner Minshew played fine. He did throw 2 interceptions, which you just, in a game like that, you just really can't have. But Dak, you have to give him some credit for not turning the ball over as much. And he got a big win at home. So we'll see. He'll have to be on the road during the playoffs, it seems like, most of the time. But they, believe it or not, they still have a chance, I think, to win the NFC East, right? I mean, because it doesn't seem like the Eagles are going to play Jalen Hurts this week. And if the Saints win and the Cowboys win, and then I believe, so basically the Eagles lose out and the Cowboys win out, I think they win the NFC East. But I don't think the Eagles are going to lose out. But yeah, this really was just a back and forth kind of game that came down to the wire.
In order for that to happen, they'd have to lose to the Saints next week, in which case they would play they would play the Giants in Week 18. And I do believe that if they need that game to win, they're going to start Jalen Hurts, which I kind of hope that's what it comes down to, because then the Cowboys would play the Commanders, and both the Eagles and the Cowboys need a win, so they would probably crap down their leg, just destroy those two teams, and that's what I need as a Packers fan, is for the Giants and the Commanders to lose. So I'm rooting for that scenario in Week 18, to say the least.
Yeah, I'll say this about the Giants. They have actually looked like back to competent. And sure, they lost against the Vikings, but the Vikings are pretty damn good. But it's just, I was kind of surprised how competent Daniel Jones looked, the offensive line. Defense could be better, and offense, but I'm just saying that they aren't as bad as they were a few weeks ago, which is not good for your Packers or for the Lions. But we'll see. And the beauty of it is, Luke, unlike college football playoff, is, you said it just a moment ago, it all plays itself out, and nothing's left up to the computers, nothing's left up to the minds of humans. It's all played out on the field, and the numbers will show us who is in and who is not via the win and loss column. So that's what's always nice about the NFL,
the tiebreaker
is
column.
that it's going to play itself out. Yes, and tiebreakers. But yeah, that's why the NFL setup for the playoffs is pretty good.
I agree with that. And this was, I don't think it was as big of a game as people were making it out to be. Like, yeah, the Eagles could have clinched the 1 seed and the division with a win, but it wasn't like the worst thing in the world. They still played well against a really good team. So yeah, it was a big game for the Cowboys more than anything. But
yeah, and we talked about, we have Gardner Minshew in there, who played fine. He really did. He's one of the better backups in the NFL. But I think the biggest difference was how they had to change their style of play. They're not running Jalen or Gardner Minshew like a battering ram on some plays like they would with Jalen Hurts. So it was more of like a change of play style, and they still dropped 34 points. So that's pretty damn impressive if you ask me. And it kind of just goes to show that the Eagles really, they really are Super Bowl favorites. Although I would probably put the
Devontae Smith
49ers
played out
even
of his
ahead of
mind.
them. Yeah, he did. He is looking really good, Devontae Smith. So Alabama connection wasn't intact this week, and he still had a good game. So those guys the Eagles players, they're able to just go with kind of whoever's there at quarterback, even though they lost, which is impressive. Most teams really can't do that. So, yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll probably just beat the Saints anyway.
Yeah.
And they'll clinch. And the only other game
Again,
I wanted to
sound.
talk about was the Packers Miami game. What do you want to say about
That was a
Dennis
fun
Allen?
game. No, I just wanted to say that I'm disappointed in him, but the Packers game, that was a fun game.
Oh,
It
I
was a
hate him.
really, really important game because
Very.
everything that needed to happen for the Packers this week, a Commanders loss,
Happened.
Seahawks, Lions, Giants, all of those teams lost. And the last thing on the list, on the Christmas list, was for the Packers to win. And it didn't look good early as the Dolphins were kind of just running all over the Packers defense. But then Tua got concussed, I'm pretty sure, late in the first half, and that really just messed him up in the second half. He threw 3 really bad interceptions. I mean, all 3 of them were, 2 of them were overthrows, and then one of them was just like literally just threw it directly to the Packers guy, Devondre Campbell. So, you could clearly tell that something was wrong with Tua. I think it was. If he did get concussed, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But
yeah, one of his interceptions was on an RPO on a slant, which is like his number one pass, and that's when he looked off. Yeah. He threw the slant way behind his receiver, almost behind the defender as well, which is never good. But and it was picked off, and that's his MO, is those RPO slants over the middle. He always hits those, and he didn't hit that, and it just as Mike McDaniel would say, it kind of just snowballed from there. And the key is to not let it snowball, he said, but it definitely did. And yeah, Tua I don't know when he was concussed, and because it's not like the concussion spotters, who might not be very good. Maybe they aren't very good at their job spotting concussions, because Tua apparently played with another concussion. Yeah, but they had to clean house and get new ones or whatever. So I have no idea. Well, during that the first concussion thing with Tua, the big one that made all the headlines, they kind of just cleaned house with the doctors and the people, the crew that decides whether or not you can go back in or not and stuff like that. And even the people up in the booth, I think, had to be replaced. But it's a really good win for the Packers, who look fine, Luke. And what I mean by that is that it's not top tier Packers offensive football, but it is nowhere near where it was even a month ago, or 5 weeks ago, maybe.
Exactly.
And I think you're in a good spot. You have 2 home games left against teams that you usually beat at home, except for the Vikings. Sometimes the Vikings steal one at home against you guys, but you usually beat the Lions and Vikings at home. And Aaron Rodgers is playing a little bit better. He's still sloppy, but he's playing a little bit better. And I think these guys are getting confidence, which might be the most important thing, because they definitely did not have it earlier on in the season. And the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, I told you I wanted him in the playoffs. You want him in the playoffs. Remember, we've done a full-on 360. There was a point in time where we were trying to figure out a way for you guys to tank for Bryce Young. Well, look where we are now, Luke. Packers right in the thick of the playoff race once
I
again.
know.
They still have to do some things to get in, but they control their own destiny, which is all that you can ask for. So I think they control their own destiny.
Pretty much.
Maybe they don't.
They need the Commanders to lose one more time. As long as that happens, we control our own destiny. Which the Commanders, they have the Browns next week, and then they finish with the Cowboys. So it's very possible for one loss to happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So very possible for one loss to happen.
I actually don't like that.
But yeah, I don't it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because the Browns have looked really bad.
I don't know
if
I like that the Commanders have to play or lose.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Apparently they're starting Carson Wentz now, so that makes me feel a little bit better. No offense, but he's Carson Wentz, so that makes me feel a little better. But the Packers, very, very much offense. But the Packers, they have to beat the Vikings in line. First off, they have to take care of their own business, which I'm actually surprisingly very confident in. Like, you're looking at me, the Packers are 7-8. They're playing the 12-3 Vikings, and then also the Lions, they're hot recently. I mean, they're 5-2 in their last 7 games. Normally, that would not look well, but historically, with Aaron Rodgers at least, the Packers don't lose to teams twice in a year. The Vikings already beat us, and the Lions already beat us, and both of these games are at home. It's literally set up perfect for the Packers. And, I mean, they're going to have to go out and beat the Vikings next week. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Kirk is going to play good, and the Vikings are good in close games. So the Packers, their key to that is they're going to have to get out to a big lead early and then just stomp on them, which I don't think is going to happen. There's going to be some weird stuff happening in this game, but it is the CBS game of the week, so that'll be fun to watch. It actually has meaning. And yeah, it's just going to determine what happens. We're not going to know after this week. There's still going to be a lot of teams in the mix because the Lions will probably win. Commanders will probably win. Giants play the Colts, so they'll probably win. So we'll probably be at relatively the same spot that we are this week and what will be next week. Unless the Packers lose, which would suck. But in the AFC, that's where it really gets go. There's only 5 teams clinched in the AFC, so there's only one more wild card spot open over there on that side. And then obviously the AFC South, which really does not matter. Huh?
What hasn't so three divisions have been clinched, right? Chiefs.
No.
Bills.
2 divisions have been clinched.
Bills haven't clinched?
No, the Bengals haven't clinched. The Bills clinched,
okay.
The Chiefs clinched,
Bills,
but the Bengals, they clinched a playoff spot, but they haven't clinched a division. The Ravens have also clinched a playoff spot, and then last night the Chargers clinched a playoff spot. So there's the AFC South spot between the Titans and Jaguars, which is going to come down to their Week 18 matchup, which is going to be Sunday Night Football. I'm just preparing everyone for that. That's going to be a Sunday Night Football game because literally this week does not matter. The Jags have Jags have the Texans. Titans have the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. And no matter what happens in those games, it literally doesn't matter. So that's the funny part. That's the beauty of it. That it does not matter at all. Only the game against each other. So that'll decide it all. And that's how it should be. And then obviously the last spot is between the Dolphins, Jets, Patriots. And I think the Titans are still hanging around for that last spot. And then the Steelers as well, surprisingly enough. The Steelers
Jets
could be a team we're looking at, just jump out of
Jets?
nowhere and get the 7 seed. Yeah, I did say Jets.
But
I think the Jets are a little bit more there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
One thing I'll point out about the AFC South game for Week 18, it should be in Jacksonville, right? Because they already went to Tennessee, to Nashville. So that's pretty much going to be like your first home playoff game. Because then they will also play another home playoff game a week later if they win that game. So Jacksonville, 2 home playoff games in a row here coming down the stretch. And to get that second one, they just need to win at home against the Titans. And me and Luke are jagging off. We'll say that right now. That's all we're going to say about it. We're
Yes.
pro Jags right now. And it is exciting. And I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. And just in terms of enjoyment of an NFL fan, this is what you want, Luke. You just want, obviously, it's worrisome for you as a Packers fan. You know, you'd like to be in a better spot. But as an NFL fan, you want NFL stuff, the playoff stuff, to come down to the last 2 weeks. And it is going to be just that. So that's pretty awesome. It is, yeah. But yeah, just one spot open left in the AFC race. And really, some of those teams, I mean, who would you even want to see? I think if I had to pick one, I'd probably say the Dolphins is probably the
Yeah.
one I would want to
It
see
would
the
be
most.
as far as like
Unless
as far
Tua's
as
done.
watching
Unless
the
he's
game.
done.
Oh yeah, that's true. But as far as watching the game and like a fun team to watch and a fun matchup that would probably be playing the Chiefs, realistically, would be the 7th seed would be playing the Chiefs. The Dolphins would be so fun. They'd be perfect for that. But in terms of like NFL and like seeing a team, I think the Jets would also be fun because the Jets have the longest playoff drought currently. It's like 12 years or something. They haven't made the playoffs since 2010 with that insane run by Mark Sanchez. So that would be very fun to see as well. So I'm fine with either one of those, which if the Dolphins win this week and the Jets win this week, it'll come down to their game in week 18. So we could have a situation where the Packers and Lions are playing for the 7th seed. The Jags and Titans are playing for the AFC South, and then Dolphins and Jets are playing for the 7th seed in the AFC. So we could have like 3 just head-to-head matchups for playoff spots, which would be awesome, by the way. We need a few more things for that to happen. But if it's the Jets and Dolphins, I really don't care which team it is. Because, I mean, unless Tua's injured for the rest of the year, then I'd probably prefer the Jets just for the storylines and stuff. But it's fun for sure.
So the Dolphins are 8-7, but aren't the Jets 7-8? So if the Dolphins win next week, that would put them at 9-7. And if the Jets win this week, that'll put them at 8-8.
8-8.
Okay, so I see what you're saying. If they tie, so if the Jets win, then they would both tie at 9-7. Or not 9-7, 10-7. Well, shit.
Well, the only thing is, the Jets would need the Dolphins to beat the Patriots this week.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so there's some other stuff that has to happen for that game to have as much meaning. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah.
So is there the now Jets? I'm thinking about it though. Path. Is there a? Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, the Jets. Their path is they win out, so they beat the Seahawks this week, and then they beat the Dolphins week 18, and then they need the Patriots to lose one more game, whether it's to the Dolphins this week or to the Bills in the last week of the year. So it's a very high possibility. If the Jets win out, they're probably going to get in, because the Patriots will probably lose to either the Bills or the Dolphins. It's a very high possibility. So the Jets basically control their own destiny here. Just have to see what happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Now I'm also thinking, so the Chargers clinched last night, but if they lose out, I think couldn't we get another Chiefs-Chargers game if they lose out? I don't think they're guaranteed 5 or 6. So I'm pretty sure if they lose out and one of the teams from the AFC that gets the last spot has 10 wins, that would make them 10-7 over the Chargers, who would have ended up being 9-8.
Yeah, but here's the thing with the Chargers. Their last 2 weeks of the year, the Chargers have the Rams and the Broncos, and we saw both of those teams play in a head-to-head matchup. And we saw how bad at least one of them was. So I think we're looking at a situation where the Chargers are pretty safely in the 6 seed, and they maybe even have a possibility at the 5 seed if the Ravens lose the next 2 games. And I think that's an even higher possibility
Yep.
than them dropping down to the 7 seed. So,
Also,
in my opinion.
this week's slate has Chargers at Rams, I believe, but they share the same stadium. So that is going to be a whose house is whose kind of game in terms of who wins that one. Although I'm pretty sure the Rams have more fans, even though they're about as quiet as a mouse during the games. But that's an interesting one. I think that's fun. Like, I always like when the Jets and Giants play each other during the regular season. We have our first meeting, I think, between Chargers and Rams at SoFi. So I guess that'll be an interesting one. Although I think the Chargers will probably win handily, but also Baker Mayfield this past week was pretty damn good. So who knows?
Yeah, Baker, he's kind of made a name for himself here at the end of this year. This little run he's going on with the Rams, he's going to get a starting job next year for a team that needs. I could see him going to a team like the Falcons or a team maybe like the Jets if the Jets don't get like Lamar Jackson or something. But
Man,
he made himself.
I don't think that would work in either of those situations. I mean, do you really? I think it would be a really bad situation if you went. Nothing works for the Jets either. I mean, so I think those would both be really bad landing spots for him, if you ask me. I think on the outside, Luke, Seattle is also a possibility. I don't know if they're all in on Geno anymore. And I don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback. So, and if they do, they may not turn to him that early. So they might be like, Baker, you want to cook? And we'll just see what happens. But
well,
that's another team to look out for. I guess you could also say maybe the Texans while they're waiting for development from their QB, but they also might just look to Davis Mills to kind of lead that development for their rookie. But it's hard to say.
I don't know. So right now, before we move on to the fantasy corner, I will name off the NFL draft order as it stands. And basically, we're in a situation, if the Texans win one more game, the Bears will pretty much get the first pick in the draft. So right now, it's the Texans at 1, Bears at 2, Seahawks via Denver at 3, Cardinals at 4, Colts at 5, Falcons at 6, the Lions via the Rams at 7, Carolina at 8, Vegas at 9, and then Philly via the Saints at 10. That's a top 10. So that's an interesting one. Houston, I think they appear to be in on CJ Stroud. So if they get the 1 pick, that's probably what they'll do. Chicago, honestly, they don't even need a top pick unless there's like a super good defensive player, maybe Will Anderson or somebody like that. Otherwise, they'll probably just trade down. Seattle we don't know what they're going to do. Arizona, they're just a dumpster fire of a franchise right now. And then the Colts also need a quarterback. So it'll be an interesting top 5. It'll be fun to see what happens down the stretch here because the Colts and Texans play in week 18. They play the last game of the year. So that's going to be like just a tank off game. Like who's going to I think that's a better situation where those teams, they want to lose. Colts or Texans. So it's going to be a tank off for the ages for sure. And yeah,
unless you have I don't know because Jeff Saturday might be trying to save his job in that game, and Jim Irsay might hold on to that last win if they beat the Texans, which would not be good for the Colts. I really hope Jim Irsay is just like, thank you for your service, for taking care of the team for the rest of the season, but we are heading in a different direction. I mean, Jeff Saturday, UNC alum, love him to death as a player, but my God, he is a horrendous head coach. So he needs to go. And we'll talk about head coaching stuff in a later episode, but I mean, obviously Sean Payton is the number one guy. I think the Cardinals, Colts, Broncos, they're all going to be looking at him. So yeah,
And the other team that has an opening right now is the Panthers, but we'll get to that later. But if the Panthers win this week over the Buccaneers, which is entirely possible because the Panthers defense has been playing good and the Bucks offense has not been playing good. So if Sam Darnold can just have another week like he had this week, and the rush game, if the Panthers rush game can keep just doing the same thing, I think they might win. And then they would be first place in the NFC South, and I think Steve Wilkes just gets the job. Carolina guy. Keep him home.
yeah. I think he kind of deserves it, especially if they get to the offs. I think they're 4-1 with them, which is pretty good. So, and I'll be honest, I don't know if
that.
I don't know if Steve Wilkes is the reason why, but I don't know.
Maybe it's just a not effect.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. I think it might be that more than anything. But the players are playing for him.
Was he fired after week?
Maybe.
Was he fired after week 5 or week 6? Was he fired after the 49ers loss or the Rams loss?
Oh man, let me look.
I think it was I think it was after week 5. Okay, so I'm pretty sure it was after week 5. And if that's the case, then they have 5 wins with Steve Wilkes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses. So they're 5-5 with him.
Okay, that was a really bad stat by me. That's my bad. 1-4 start to the season.
I was like,
with
I'm pretty sure he coached like twice as many games.
So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that'd be
so. There was also a bye in there somewhere, I believe.
Yes, there was a bye. So I mean, they've had some weird losses, but they've also had some weird wins. And the game this week is in Tampa. And then not only that, but they'd have to go on the road and beat New Orleans the next week too to secure the division title. So it's very, very low chance of that happening. But it's kind of just incredible that we're even in this scenario where they win 2 more games in the division, or they win the division. So
yeah,
it's a very ugly.
You know what? If
scenario.
The Buccaneers go 9-8, yeah, it is very ugly. But if the Buccaneers go 9-8, then yeah, I guess I'll say it. They probably deserve to be in the playoffs over those other teams. But in my personal opinion, I believe that the Colts are playing better right now. I'm sorry, not the Colts. The Panthers are playing better right now. So that's who I kind of hope makes it in. But it's looking like that the Buccaneers could win out. But then again, they have just been atrocious. So we'll just have to wait and see. But if they go 9-8, that's actually somewhat respectable in the NFL. Win more than you lose, even though their wins are really bad. And like I said, NFL scriptwriters got lazy again Christmas night. But yeah. All right, that kind of just leads us into the fantasy corner, Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to start first?
Yeah, we didn't post a graphic this week, so we didn't have any fan questions. But we will do the start 'em, sit 'em, sleepers. I can start off. I'm pretty sure it's tradition for me to start off, so I'll just keep that going. My stardom is the college football playoff. And in my opinion, this is set up to be the best college football playoff ever. Because, historically, the teams just beat the shit out of each other. Like the 1 seed always just destroys the 4 seed. And then either the 2 or 3, whichever way, it's a blowout. And then we have a good championship. That's what it is. That's what historically it's been. The Michigan TCU game is going to be one of the funnest games of the year. I have a feeling because TCU is just that fun. They're kind of like the Vikings of college football, and they're purple too. So that kind of just goes hand in hand, but they're just always in the close games. They're always fighting. They got a really fun quarterback to watch. They have a really fun offense, and Michigan is just really good. It would not surprise me if they just play each other hand in hand. The line on this game is, at least earlier, was plus 9.5 for TCU. Like Michigan's favored by 9.5. I would be slamming the plus 9.5 for TCU because while I don't think they're going to win the game, by any means, I do think they're going to keep it close. And that, I'm almost guaranteed that they're going to keep it close. Now, the game I do worry about is Georgia-Ohio State. I think Ohio State is one of the best 4 seeds we've ever had in this college football playoff, but it does worry me because just of how good Georgia is. And we don't really know how good Ohio State is, like, because they kind of got blown out by Michigan. That does worry me a little bit that we could get a blowout in that game. But I do think Ohio State is one of the better 4 seeds. So, and they've won the title as a 4 seed before. So I believe they're the only team to do that. So it's going to be fun. And then just the bowl season in general is going to be, there's some good bowls. The Alamo Bowl is supposed to be good Wednesday night. The Sugar Bowl on New Year's Eve, right before the college football playoff, is going to be good. So there's just a lot of fun games going on. And a lot of cool players like still playing. Like the Alabama guys, Bryce Young, he's still playing and stuff. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. If I was a betting man, this is what I'd say. I wouldn't bet the TCU Michigan game. I just wouldn't bet it. I would just stay away from it due to the fact that, yes, TCU is alligator blood, Luke, and they stay in close games. But Michigan on paper should boat race them, I believe. So that's one I would steer away from. I think Georgia can take care of Ohio State. And like you said, we just really haven't seen a lot from Ohio State. They're probably their best win is against either Penn State or Notre Dame, who are good teams but not great teams. And you said that they got blown out against Michigan, which on the scoreboard they definitely did, but it was a much closer game than what the scoreboard would indicate. It just kind of the wheel just kind of fell
At
off
least in
the
the first 3
wagon
quarters.
for Ohio State, I think. Yeah. And once the fourth quarter started, things got out of control, but it was lost pretty fast in the fourth quarter, and things, like I said, they just got out of control. So much closer game than what the scoreboard indicated. And if we get a Michigan-Ohio State national championship, I mean, that might be as much of a watch game as any college football game ever in terms of viewing. So, because those two have like the 2 most watch in terms of fan bases that watch games, plus it's the national championship. I mean, that could be the most highly rated game ever. Yeah, plus the rivalry.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Who knows? I think that's what a lot of people are rooting
lines
for, but I think Georgia's going to win.
I'm honestly just rooting for Georgia to run through everyone because I want a new dynasty in college football. Alabama's had that title for like 10 years, 10, 15 years. I want a new dynasty. I think Georgia definitely has the capabilities here. So the lines for the Michigan TCU game, which is the first one, Michigan is favored by -7.5. So I'm still taking TCU. I think it'll be within a touchdown. And then the over-under is 58.5. I'll take the over in this one. I think these are 2 teams that can just run up the score. And then in the other game, the night game, the Peach Bowl between Ohio State and Georgia, Georgia's favored by -6.5. And I'm sorry, but that is free money. 96 out of 100 times, Georgia covers this spread. If you do not take this, you're kind of an idiot. -6.5 Georgia, that's easy. And then the over-under is 62. That's a good line because I don't know which way to take. I took the over in the other game, so I'll just take the under in this one. Even though Georgia might get that just by themselves. Do you agree? Or do
I was
you have any
thinking when you said over Michigan, the Michigan TCU game, my first thought was under, just because Michigan doesn't really play over football very often. But I know we say, a lot of people say, TCU is probably just going to get boat raced, including me, but they score. They have guys on offense that might be first round picks. The wide receiver, who I'm blanking on his name, but he's looking like I think it's something Quez Johnson, maybe. I have no idea. That may not be right at all. But
I know who you're talking
looking
about.
Like a first.
Quentin
I think he has
Johnston.
dreadlocks right now. Quentin Johnson. Um, he's looking like a possible first round, maybe early second round draft pick. So they have that. They have a running back who's well over 1,000 yards. They have a strong offensive line. So maybe they can hang with them and go score for score. But this might also be, instead of a score for score, we might see a TCU defense show up. Rare, just like the Horned Frog, rare, but they might show up, and that's why I'm thinking this might be under football. And I actually think the other one, the Georgia-Ohio State, I think that one might be over football, just because I think Georgia is actually going to get out to a lead, and then they're going to play, their defense is going to play with the lead and let Ohio State score as long as Stetson keeps scoring. So that's what I think will happen. I think Georgia wins, and I think Michigan wins, and I think Georgia probably beats them probably by like 13.
Yeah, now that you said, I could see that game going over as well. I just picked under just for the fun of it, but I'll switch it to over because it's fun. Both games are going over. Points. And then my sit-em for this week is Carlos Correa. So obviously last week he signed the massive deal with the San Francisco Giants. They took a look at his physical and they're like, "Oh, dude, you have a fake knee in right now. Like you have robotic knee. You had it surgically repaired. We don't want to sign you to a long-term deal." So he's like, "All right." A few hours later, like 2:00 in the morning, he signs with the New York Mets for almost the same deal, 1 year less, $35 million less. They took a look at his physical, saw the exact same thing the Giants did, and were like, I don't know if we want to go through with this deal. They haven't said anything yet. There's a report that said it's about a 55% chance it happens. So basically 50-50. I wouldn't be surprised if they renegotiate for maybe a shorter deal, but if this deal falls through as well, he's just going back to the Twins. Like, I know he wants to go to a winning team, but the Twins are going to be the only team that is willing to offer him a long-term deal. So if that's if he wants just a 2-year deal with a contending team, he could take it, but he'll probably never get a long-term deal in his life if he doesn't take one with the Twins, if this Mets one falls through. So we'll just sit him. I think he's a good player, but he's just getting some really bad luck right now due to his injury past. And then my sleeper is Anesthesia, because I will be sleeping on that in a few days. So I am having a surgery, kind of like Cam did I don't know if you remember, but back in the springtime, we actually had to postpone an episode because Cam had his wisdom teeth taken out, and it took a little bit longer to recover than what he was expecting. So now I have to go through the exact same surgery. So that's why we're recording this a little earlier in the week, so that we get it out and ready before I basically am turned into a chipmunk. So
yeah, and Anesthesia, crazy drug. I mean, it is insane. It is literally, I had never had it before until I had my wisdom teeth removed as well, because I had all 4 removed too, just like Luke's going to have to do. And I mean, it is inserted into your veins, and it is 5, 4, 3, 2, and then boom, just a shitload of colors, and then you're just out. That's all I really remember. I just remember a bunch of colors. And I felt like I was asleep for maybe 2 minutes at the most, Luke, and you're back awake, and you have all these doctors around you, and you feel woozy, and the colors go away, and you're just back. And you're like, how long was that? Oh, it was like 30, 45 minutes. And you're like, holy shit, I felt like I was out for 2 minutes, maybe 30 seconds. It is insane. And if you remember some of the colors, I don't know, I still remember the colors when I went under, and that's pretty much all I remember. You don't really dream or anything. It is that fast. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's what I heard. You don't have time for
then, the REM then you're kind of just on the IL.
You're out. Out
So
indefinitely.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I'm ready for it to just be over.
it is a
Because it's
sucky
something
thing.
that yeah, it's something that I've been pushing off for years. Like last summer is when I was supposed to get it done, but then it never really became like an emergency issue, so we just kept pushing it off and off and off. And now they're finally like starting to push up and like push on the other teeth, and so it's like, all right, it's definitely time. So yeah, that could be a tough scene as well. I know we've stopped doing the tough
Yeah,
scene, but yeah, anesthesia because I
it
will be
definitely
sleeping on that.
is.
So I've I've heard a lot
Yeah.
of stories about like just what happens, and yeah, one of them is that like it seems like you're out a minute, and then you just wake up and it's been an hour. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I
Yeah.
guess I'll give a follow up update next week. I'll probably be a little swollen still, so you'll get to see fat Luke. You know, like the filters when they put on people and to make them look fat. I'll have one of those filters, but it won't be a filter. It'll just be real. So
It's just real life.
it'll be Fat Luke. Yeah, it'll be
Beautiful.
Fat Luke next week. Um, yeah, that's mine.
All right, my stardom is jagging off. Me and Luke talked about this. We're jagging off for the rest of the season, and we're just taking the Jaguars in our picks. So yeah, it's paying off right now in unconventional ways, and we're going to continue with it. So stardom is jagging off. My situm is all Colts players. So in fantasy, if you're still alive, whether, consolation, fighting for your life to not be the loser of your league, or maybe you're in the championship and you've got some Colts players on your team, which you probably don't if you're in the championship. You probably do not have Colts players in your league or on your
Definitely
team.
not.
But if you do, sit them. Sitting all of them. You're not starting a single one of them. Jeff Saturday needs to go. That offense is horrible. And even if you have their defense, don't start them. Sit them. All Colts players, sit them. My sleeper is Dennis Gates' Missouri Tigers. And not only that, but Dennis Gates' Missouri Tigers to upset Kentucky on Wednesday night, which is
Ooh.
tomorrow at home. They are the arena is sold out, which they said that about Kansas too, and I went to that game and there was plenty of open seats, but that's neither here nor there. The arena is sold out, and that is going to be awesome. So great sports night for me tomorrow. I have both North Carolina against Oregon in the Holiday Bowl at 7 p.m. And then I also have Mizzou hosting the Kentucky Wildcats at home, 11-1. And I am very excited for that. I went to the bragging rights game over the break since our last show on Thursday, the 22nd. We fought through the bad weather and bad roads, but got there. Wasn't the usual bragging rights atmosphere at the Enterprise Center. It was about 2/3 Illinois compared to a 50-50 split that usually takes place. I think it's mostly because Illinois fans are used to driving in that bad of weather for their sports teams in terms of the Bears, the Blackhawks, Cubs, or not Cubs, Bears, Blackhawks, and Illinois. So I think they were more used to that weather. And Columbia and Kansas City is much farther to St. Louis to have to go through all that in terms of bad roads than Champaign is. But crazy game. I couldn't believe it. Mizzou has bragging rights for the fourth time in 5 years, I believe. And we boat raced Illinois. I mean, it was never a game. We led by 33 at one point. And in the back of your mind, you're also like, there's no way Mizzou can lose this, right? When you're up 30, but you also had to think about it because it's Mizzou in terms of them possibly losing. But yeah, it was really awesome. Beating Illinois again, dominated them, and now Mizzou, I think, sits at 32 in the AP poll in terms of receiving votes. And if they beat Kentucky, they might be in the top 25. So, but yeah, in terms of me, I had incredible luck for the bragging rights game. Safe drive, excellent parking all night, good food at Sybert's, and it was an astonishing victory. So, so yeah, Dennis Gates is Missouri Tigers is my sleeper.
Yeah, and if they do win that game on Wednesday night, they're going to be ranked. So the one argument,
I
like they
think
have a
so.
good record, they're an SEC team. The one knock at them is that they didn't have a good schedule. They couldn't play anyone, and when they did, Kansas, they got boat raced. But now, if they get a win over
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky, they get a win over Illinois. All of a sudden, they got a good record, and they've played some ranked teams. So they're already close right now. They're receiving quite a few votes. So if they get this win, I'm sure that they'll be ranked. And that would be exciting.
Yeah.
First time in 2
They
years
need to
that's
win
happened.
this one.
So
Yeah.
they really do. It's just
They
a
need to
proving
win
game.
this one. Yeah. And I mean, if they don't, it's not the end of the world. You have all of SEC play, but you have this momentum. The guys are playing well. You have a chance to redeem your last home game loss, which was to Kansas, and it's against Kentucky. Who Mizzou has had, believe it or not, has had some luck beating since their time in the SEC. It's happened a few times, and every single time it is glorious. Especially since Coach Cal usually comes right into the St. Louis area and steals a bunch of St. Louis kids from the Tigers all the time, like Kevin Knox. But it will be awesome. I will just say that, and I agree with you, Luke. If they win, they should be ranked. They have some good wins already. UCF has a good chance to make the tournament again. Wichita State, they beat Wichita State on the road. Nope, that was UCF. UCF was the buzzer beater.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But
I'm just
Wichita
lagging behind, I
State,
think. So
sorry. The lag. Yeah, you're right. Wichita State as well, and now Illinois, but Kentucky would be a really good one to add to their win total. So yeah. Yeah. If I had an extra sit 'em though, Luke, I would sit Mizzou in their bowl game. I had some pretty disgusting notes about this team at the time during the game. A couple F-bombs that I will not drop right now, but I'm still a little mad about it. I've definitely cooled down, but and I think I noted, why should I even be mad? Mizzou never, why should I expect anything special from Mizzou, even if it is just the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl? I mean, seriously, but I don't know what to say about the Mizzou football team. Drink has one more year. I mean, next year is it. If he probably needs to win 9 games next year. Maybe he'll get away with 8, but they probably need to win 9 games next year. Being ranked would be something special for them. Because right now the boat is sinking, and Coach Drink is on it. He's going to have to go down with the ship. I'm sure, honestly, I'm a big fan of Mizzou's AD, Desiree Francois, and she probably already has a short list going of candidates next year if Drink doesn't get it together. Only players I like right now that are returning, the secondary and Ryan. And quarterback needs to be changed. I was trying to ride with Brady Cook, Luke. His haircut has gotten the best of me, but not only that, his play has gotten the best of me. He was abysmal, and the whole offense was. And it starts with the quarterback, though, and the horrible offensive line. So, yes, sorry.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's the offensive line is really bad too. Drink needs to give up play calling. He needs to stop calling plays because that is a huge part of it too. Like, we have a running quarterback, we have 2 good running backs, and he just wants to pass it every play with the quarterback who is widely inaccurate. So it doesn't make sense to me at all. It's kind of like watching the Browns Saints game this weekend. Like just watching Deshaun Watson trying to make passes
exactly
reminded me of watching like the Mizzou offense. So it's very confusing for sure. And the thing about Drink, I remember at the beginning of the year when we did our college football preview, and we gave like evaluation games, and there were a few that we shifted throughout the year just based on how it's gone. But I think the final record in the evaluation games was 2-4. And you could almost add the bowl game. We didn't know a bowl game was going to be made, but you could almost add the bowl game as an evaluation game as well because it's a very evenly matched team. They lost that, so that's 2-5 in evaluation games. You need to be doing better than that in year 3. And the thing about Drink that is that's going to be his downfall is he doesn't know how to adapt to the transfer portal. I think he's one of those coaches that is still pissed off about it, that all these guys are transferring, and he's not going out and getting the transfers like a lot of other schools that have adapted to it are. Like, I'm sorry, but complaining about it is not going to make you a better football team. It's not going to change anything. You just need to adapt to it. Go out to the transfer portal, search for guys that you need. I don't think he's doing that. Is what he can do. I mean, Mizzou has a lot of NIL money, not as much as some other schools, but they're in the SEC. They need to go out and get some transfers. And I don't think that Drink's going to be able to do that. And that's worrisome for sure, especially in the era today. So he gets one more year. He may get less than that depending on how the first half goes, but they're only going to allow a few losses. Like Georgia will be an allowed loss, maybe Tennessee if they run it back and are really good again next year. And then, yeah, that's about it. You don't have much wiggle room next year if you're Mr. Drinkwitz. So it'll just be time, though. We'll see what happens in the offseason. And, yeah. Unless you have anything else,
I know you said he can't go out and get transfers. I want to add a little bit something because, to be fair to Drink, between development of his players that he recruited on defense, like Dalen Carnell and Rakestraw and stuff like that, on defense, the defense was way better this year. And he actually fixed the entire defensive line pretty much through the transfer portal last year, and Tyron Hopper through the transfer portal last year. So he was able to rebuild the defense a little bit, and we re-signed Blake Baker as our defensive coordinator, which is huge. And one thing you mentioned was how he was calling plays during the game again, and there wasn't a whole lot he could do. He had to call the plays pretty much because Bush Hamden left to go coach Ohio State, or not Ohio State, sorry, Boise State, and be their offensive coordinator because he's an alum. So he was kind of thrown back into the mix in terms of calling plays, but that's not an excuse. You're the head coach. You should be able to call your own offense's plays. But obviously he was not, and it showed. But exactly. And yeah, that's what landed him this job in the first place. But this is what I really expect is, yes, we need to get guys in the transfer portal, but the number one thing you need to do is you need to figure out the quarterback position. And then things will start to go because you're going to have a developmental year with your offensive line, and hopefully they get better in a developmental year. But the main thing has got to be finding a quarterback, whether that's turning to Sam Horn after baseball season gets over with, or maybe it's finding somebody in the portal. Because what you have in that room right now has not produced for you at all. And then the second thing is you have to go find an OC. You have to go find an offensive coordinator that kind of aligns with what you're looking to do. Otherwise, you're going to be calling plays again next year, and the fan base is fed up with it. So, yeah, and evaluation games will definitely be back for us next year. He failed the evaluation
There'll be a lot
tests
more of them
this
too,
year.
I'm sure.
He really did. He did. I mean, and you're exactly right, Luke. I mean, because it's Mizzou, I'm not sure if they would fire him mid-season, but if it is no sign of more success from this year compared to next year, they might. I don't know. Maybe go with Blake Baker as your interim for the rest of the way if that happens next year. But, I hate to jump on a man's job this much, but it's a different time in college football. You don't get 4 years to build a program because now you have the transfer portal, because you can rebuild your team a lot faster than just via college or high school recruits, which they did. They rebuilt their defense last year and it worked, but you have to find a way to get a quarterback and continue your defensive success.
Find a way to score.
So you have to find a way to score.
And
he's taken some responsibility. I appreciate that. He did in the press conference after the game, but you got to show it now. So, and maybe don't say as much dumb shit until you start winning. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the comment. Yeah. That was wild. All right, and then for the picks this week, if you're ready to move into that, we can do that.
Yep.
Last week we went 13-3, so we obviously didn't do them live on the show, but Cam picked all the games. I vetoed with the Texans. He had the Titans. I vetoed. I said, well, let the Texans win. I didn't feel good about it. And I also vetoed the Colts over the Chargers, but thankfully Cam re-vetoed that. So the vetoes paid off this week, to say the least. So 13-3. And also, me and Cam were talking on the side. We're racing Vegas right now. I think like the Vegas favorites, basically just whoever Vegas has favored, they have about 4 more wins than us now. We picked up 2 games on them this week. So every game that we differed on them on 2 games. I do believe it was, and it was the Packers and the Texans, and both those teams won. So we picked up 2. Yeah, we picked up 2 games on Vegas. So we gotta find a way to pick up like 4 or 5 more here in the last 2 weeks. But we don't want to get stupid with it because we don't want to lose ground on Vegas. We want to pick up ground. So this is the great race against Vegas. Me and Cam, can we beat them? Are we better odds makers than Vegas? Is the question. And the first game we start off with is Dallas at Tennessee on Thursday night. And I don't know who's favored in this game, but this has got to be Dallas because Tennessee does not care about this game. They're putting all their marbles into Week 18. I'm sure it'd be nice to get 1 win because right now they've lost like 4 or 5 in a row. It'd be nice to get 1 win going into that game, but really this game means a lot more to Dallas than it does to Tennessee, and Dallas is a better team. So that's that. Arizona at Atlanta. Frankly, I don't really care in this game. I'll probably just pick Atlanta because they're at home. But both of these teams are dumpster fires. They're both red birds. Man, but Atlanta's the favorite. No, I don't want to get. Let's just pick Atlanta. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about that game anymore.
I think they have to.
Chicago.
I think they have to start
Detroit.
Trace McSorley. So
yeah, Chicago at Detroit. This is Detroit. They got something to play for. Chicago's tanking. They're full in on the tank. It's Detroit. Take the over in this game, though. And then Jacksonville at Houston. Oh, I guess I'm just looking at my phone now at the sheet. Denver at Kansas City. Yeah, that's Kansas City. If Denver somehow wins that game, I'll get teeth taken out. I will get 4 of my teeth pulled if Denver wins that game. 4 more of my teeth pulled. In addition to the 4 I'm already getting pulled. So, Miami over. They're not going to win. They're not going to win. Although the fired coach game, teams do tend to play better against the fired coach. But Patrick Mahomes owns the Broncos. So
yeah, but
I'm confident. Miami
no
at
place
New England.
like Mahomes for the holidays.
Oh man, this is
Tua's
an interesting game. Miami.
Remember, Tua's concussed.
He is concussed, so I remember that, and he's probably not going to have time to clear the protocols. He's probably going to be out. But boy, oh boy, has New England. They've had some heartbreaking losses. We'll make this a clause game. If Tua plays, I like the Dolphins. If Tua does not play, it's New England.
It's the Pats.
So we'll put New England down for now because I don't think he's going to play. Then we have Indianapolis at the Giants. This is the Giants. They have something to play for. Colts don't. As much as I want the Colts to win, this is the Giants. New Orleans at Philadelphia. This is the Eagles.
Also, Philadelphia playing for a better draft pick.
Exactly, because they have the Saints pick. And then Carolina at Tampa Bay. This is a fun game. And Tampa Bay would definitely be the smart move here. But you know what? We're a Panthers pod. We got to pick up games on Vegas. We're riding with the Fighting Steve Wilkes.
Okay.
I'll let you. Carolina's been doing me well the last few weeks.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know, though. I mean, it's just Tampa at home. It's not going to be a high scoring game. It's probably
No,
going to be like 15
definitely
to 11 or something, or 9. It's going to be weird. It's going to be gross. There's not going to be points until maybe the fourth quarter. But you know what? Sam Darnold can run a little bit. So maybe, I guess, I'm not going to veto it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to veto it, so we'll just take Carolina.
All right. And then we have Cleveland at Washington. Frankly, I don't really know in this game. If I think Carson Wentz is scheduled to play, so that makes me want to take Cleveland. But then Cleveland also they have a creep.
Cleveland's bad.
They have a weird pervert at quarterback. So, and they have Kevin Stefanski, who just forgot how to call plays as well recently. So they have 2 of the best running backs in the league, and they just don't use them. Washington also has a good defensive line.
Yeah.
But Carson Wentz, dude. Just give me Washington. Give me Washington.
Okay. Me too. I want Washington as well. I think it's kind of a troop respecting game, for DC. The troops over, the poops, really, and that is Deshaun Watson and the Browns. So give me the troops.
Troops over the poops. I like that. And then Jacksonville at Houston. Jacksonville's hot. Houston's tanking, and plus Houston already beat them this year. This is Doug Peterson and the Ice Cream Lovers. And then we go down to San Francisco at Vegas. San Francisco, without a thought. This is the 49ers. The Raiders have Derek Carr. Simple as that. And then we go to the Jets at Seattle. Seattle is falling off hard. I called this a few weeks ago. Game. Remember, I called this a few weeks ago. I said that Seattle's falling off. And ever since that I said that, even though they beat the Rams, they're coming off a win. They're 0-3. And I think they continue that. So, yeah, give me the Jets. Jets are favored too.
Yeah.
And then Chargers
Hopefully
at the Rams.
Mike White plays.
Yeah, Chargers at the Rams. I'm looking. This is Chargers. And then Green Bay.
Minnesota at Green Bay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about right now. Minnesota at Green Bay. Anytime you see the Vikings with a plus sign, you want to take them. But the last 2 times where Minnesota had a plus sign by their name was the Lions when they lost and the Cowboys when they lost. So Vegas that makes me think that Vegas once again knows something. Vegas knows. Give me Green Bay. And then
I agree.
For Sunday Night Football, thank God.
And I also think this is just the perfect spot for ayahuasca Aaron to get us back into the playoffs. Starts with the Minnesota game.
Exactly. This could be a vintage Aaron moment. And then the Sunday night game, thank goodness this was flexed, because if it was the Rams and Chargers on Sunday Night Football, this would be the 4th consecutive week we see the Rams at prime time, and that is just gross. So a game that actually matters, the Ravens and Steelers, and a rivalry game. Give me Pittsburgh. I don't think Lamar is going to be back, so that makes the Ravens offense really bad. And the Steelers have not looked great, but here's the thing. The Steelers right now are sitting at 7-8. If they lose one more game, they have a losing record. What is one thing Mike Tomlin is famous for? Never having a losing record. He always gets a winning record. He always gets a winning record. He is fighting for the winning record right now. And plus, the Ravens already beat him once this year.
Man.
They beat him in Pittsburgh in that ugly game with Trubisky and all that. Kenny's back. And plus, we need to pick up on Vegas. This is a game where it's kind of a pick 'em, but the Ravens are favored, so we can pick up on Vegas. Yeah, we need at least a few games where we differ from Vegas.
I'm not gonna veto, but I am gonna make it a clause game, Luke. If Lamar Jackson plays, I'm vetoing to Pittsburgh. So we can take the pit.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But if Lamar
I'll agree
Jackson
with that.
plays,
I just don't think Lamar Jackson's going
So-
to play. I think he's he might be seriously injured. And then obviously the game of the week on Monday Night Football, Bills at Bengals. You know,
wow.
the Bills are kind of hot.
Yeah.
They're fighting for the 1 seed right now. This is just a huge game. This is a potential AFC Championship game. They're probably going to end up playing in the playoffs, just based on how things are going to work out. And I like the Bengals in this one. The Bengals are hot. The Bills are also hot, but the Bengals have just been on a different level recently. They need this game in terms of the division. Like if Baltimore loses, they could clinch here. It's in Cincinnati. Buffalo has just had a lot of weird stuff going on with their weather recently, so they might not get a normal week of practice because they're going to be battling snow and cold all week. So give me Cincinnati.
Okay, that one is that one might be the toss-up of the week, if you ask me.
And also, here's another thing. The Bengals are +1. So that is also another game we could pick up on Vegas on. I don't want to make that factor in the position in the picks, but we are chasing Vegas.
But we are.
Yeah. Exactly. So.
All right. But if this week is a disaster, we might throw out chasing Vegas next week. But we made up a little ground on Vegas this week. Not much. Yeah. We probably don't.
All right, and then I think we have time for a quick...
If we did...
Go ahead.
Simulator? I was just going to say, if it wasn't for our disastrous first 2 weeks of picks, we might be nose to nose with Vegas right now. But early weeks of NFL seasons just kill you, and they killed us in picks this week. I think, what was it? We started 12-20, something like that. So, obviously, really way better now. We are 50 games now over 500. So at 139-86.
Safely.
So much better. Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. We could go 0-32 and we'd be fine. But obviously,
exactly
above 500 is not just what you
it would be harder.
You want to be way above 500, which we are. But
yeah,
it would be
going
harder.
0-32 is just as impressive as going 32-0. So
exactly.
And with the NFL playoffs just 2 weeks away, like literally 2 weeks from today, we'll be gearing up for Super Wildcard Weekend. So I think we got to do. We taken a break from the simulator. It was getting very redundant with the same teams over and over again. Not a lot of results, not a lot of change. There has been a lot of change. There's been like 4 weeks of football since we've last done it, and here we are getting ready close to the playoffs. So give some of these fan bases something. I already set up the first game right now. The Dolphins at the Chiefs. So I'll go ahead and get that going if you want to get the playoff picture up.
Okay.
And
so we're at 1 hour 28.
Yeah. Oh, and also another thing, if you're a listener at this point, you're not. This is optional. Like this is just for the people that find fun in it. If you're a dedicated listener to the Show Me Show podcast, meaning you listen to everything, we're allowing you the opportunity to turn it off right now. So this is just a little bonus section. It's like overtime. You're not required. It's not mandatory to remain a loyal listener. You will not lose your title if you turn it off now, to say the least. We're going to do it, though, just for the fun. So we have a first upset. The Dolphins beat the Chiefs, Cam, 38-25. So,
wow. Are they the 7th seed right now?
They are the 7th seed.
Yeah, they are. Okay, yeah. No change.
So I guess it would be the Bengals.
The next versus the Chargers. Again. No, yeah, Bengals
Ooh.
Chargers.
Oh, that is
Not
a fun
again.
game. That's probably if this game is actually true, like it actually goes through, this will be a Saturday night game on Super Wildcard Weekend. And as you expected, Bengals win 41-14. So I would probably actually
That would
expect a
never
little
happen, but
closer.
yeah.
Yeah, true.
That's just
And
not
then what's our
football.
next?
That just would not happen. Still in
And
the
then we got with
AFC, we have your Ravens
Jacksonville, Baltimore.
playing the Jaguars, who are, yep, in Duval as
In
well,
Duval.
though. So
And look at this. The Jags win 24-20. So how about that? How about that,
yeah,
Jags? And they won 52% of the time in like all the simulations that they ran. So I think that's actually
well, Luke, that's why
if
we're
this is the
jagging
real
off.
matchup,
All right.
we continue. I think if this game actually happens in real life, the Jags would actually have a real chance to win too. So I guess that sends the Jags on the road to play the Bills then. Or no, it's not. It's not the Jags playing the Bills. It would be the Dolphins, right? They're the 7th seed.
Yeah, because you said they beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So yeah, this is pretty much just a repeat of the snow game a few weeks ago. Bills win 34-19. And that sets up the Bengals and the Jaguars to go to the AFC Championship. And boy, that's a weird matchup. If you would have told me 2 years ago that the Bengals and Jaguars would be playing in the divisional round, I'd probably laugh at you. And the Bengals hold on to win 21-19. So
All
this is
right.
probably a game
So then what
where
does that
the
leave?
Jaguars, Bengals, Bills. So AFC Championship,
Okay, yeah.
like I said earlier when we were doing our picks. But this is probably a game where Doug Peterson goes for 2 to tie it up late in the game. Like maybe last minute they tie it up and they need a 2-point conversion, they don't get it. But also to a fun thing for Jaguars fans, they did also win 52% of the time in all the simulations run. So you got some hope out there. You just beat the Bengals more times on the simulator than what the Bengals beat you. And going to the Super Bowl is the Bills. 27-23 win over the Bengals, and that is a very, very real thing. That could happen. 27-23.
Definitely.
I fully expect that to happen. All right, now on to who will be facing the Bills. Got to go back to Wild Card Weekend in the NFC with who's the 2-7.
2-7 is the Vikings versus the football team or Commanders.
Okay. The Carson Wentz led Commanders? The playoffs? And oh, wow. They upset the Vikings. 26-20.
Jesus.
So
That's fake.
both the 2 seeds go down
But
in the first round. That would be absolutely wicked
all
if
right,
that
well,
happened.
your 3 and
Giants 9.
6 seeds are the 49ers. Yeah, Giants 49ers.
Okay. I'd expect this to be a 49ers beatdown. Yep, 49ers win 31-20. And then what's the
And
next one?
then
Is
your
it Bucks?
5-4 is the it's the Bucks hosting the Cowboys.
Yeah, you know, that's probably actually going to happen too. This matchup is going to happen. And sure enough, the Buccaneers win 19-16. That's very real.
Jesus. Yeah,
That's
that's
probably
false.
actually going to happen. So we have the Philadelphia Eagles playing host to the 7-seeded Commanders.
Again,
This is
for the
not good for
second
the
time
Eagles
this
because,
year.
yeah. You know what happened the last time Washington went into Philadelphia?
Nope.
It does not happen this time either. 26-10, the Eagles
This
win,
would
go to
be
the NFC Championship.
Yeah, this would probably be the return of Wentz if they continue with Wentz instead of
Oh
Heineke.
my God. The revenge game.
Disgusting.
Carson Wentz in the playoffs.
Disgusting.
So then we have the San Francisco 49ers. Is it versus the Bucks?
Bucks. Yep.
Oh my
3-4.
This would be awful. Because remember what happened a few weeks ago? I expect that to happen again. Oh!
Yeah, we just saw this.
Oh my God, the Bucks win. 21-10.
Oh God. The simulator's on
Oh
crack,
my God.
but whatever.
I
right,
wouldn't
well,
be
now
shocked
we
if this
have
happened either,
Bucks,
but
Bucks and Eagles, right?
oh my God, please, for the sake of the NFL simulator, please give us the Eagles versus the Bills. Oh my God, that's exactly what would happen too. The Eagles win 52-13. I fully expect that to happen if that's the championship.
Bills and Eagles it is.
All right, Eagles are the home team just by default. And they win the Super Bowl 45-14 over the Bills. So for the third time, I do believe, in the simulator history, the Eagles take home the title. So I think the Bills have won once, the Chiefs have won once, the 49ers won once, I do believe, and then we had that weird week when the Falcons won. So that's obviously not going to happen.
Yep.
That was a fake week. So yeah, Eagles win. Thank you for listening.
All right.
If you're still listening to this point, so.
And I know Luke said this was overtime, and just as a little treat for anyone who did stay, I will share a story that happened over Christmas break. So basically what happened Christmas Day, we had family over, and we had a gingerbread making contest, and it got to the point where money was on the line for the gingerbread making contest.
Oh boy.
So what happened was, once everybody was done, everybody's gingerbread houses, their teams had a picture taken of it, and it was left up to the voters on Facebook. Very democratic democracy, a nice voting system. I didn't know that that you couldn't tell your peers to vote for you in a democratic election. I thought that was fair game. I thought it was democracy. And so I did let some people know that I personally know to go and vote for my very patriotic gingerbread house. And I may have rigged the election and won. And my team may have won $100. And later on that evening, the family found out that the election may have been stolen via sending a message to Microwave Noise, which is just a group chat where I just asked my good peers to possibly leave a vote for the patriotic gingerbread house. And yeah, so my team won, and once that was realized that there was some possibly asking for votes, the election officials were quite very upset, to say the least. And the family is not happy with the outcome of the very, very democratic election, if you ask me. That is, I think it's fair game.
Yeah, Cam,
but
I'm on your side.
There may or may not have been, apparently. Now, I didn't hear this, so this is where things got awry. Apparently, you're not allowed to ask your Democratic peers for votes. I didn't hear this. And so that's why there is an outcry over what happened in the election. But personally, I think it was a fair election, and that my team should be able to keep the money. So that's what happened.
I
there is a little yeah,
I will say it's actually probably more fair.
A crazy situation.
It's probably more fair than a U.S. election per se, because those guys are being paid, they take money for votes. Like, they'll pay out people like, oh, yeah, I'll do this for you if you vote for me, and boom, or if you support my campaign or whatever. You were just you didn't pay anyone to vote. You didn't say, hey, I'll give you guys
I didn't
$5.
do
I'll buy you guys
anything.
ice cream if you vote. You just said, hey, go vote for the patriotic. That's just campaigning. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
That
I
is.
think it's very democratic. It's just called a campaign. It's not rigging the election. It's not taking lobbyist money. It's just simply campaigning. So
Nope.
I think there should be no. I think you should get all the money. I think you should get the win. It's not their fault that they. I mean,
And
it's
right
not their
now
fault that
the
you
win is
just
still
chose a campaign
intact.
and they didn't.
It is the election is still confirmed right now. We're still the winner as of right now. The money is still there as of right now, and I expect it to continue to stay there. But there is tension. I will just say that there's tension within the household, and I am glad to be leaving the house today for at least for a little bit. So yeah, if you stuck around for that story, there you go. Not a rigged election, though. I will say that.
Not a rigged election. And also, thank you guys for listening.
That's the show.
Troy Polamalu Show. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next year. Well, the next time you listen to us will be next year. So, have a great New Year's holiday and a safe 2023. Hopefully, the new year brings you great joy and everyone fulfills their resolutions. So, we might do like a segment or something where we make our resolutions. Hopefully not, because I hate them. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week, next year, whatever you want to say.